In today's video, we are covering 12 perfect endgame watches that every single collector and their dog loves. We're going to start with more affordable watches and we're going to work our way up as we go until we get to very, very expensive watches. The first watch on the list when it comes to endgame watches has to be Seiko. Now, Seiko as a brand is packed full of history. And that history would definitely encourage any collector to buy a Seiko as their endgame watch. This specific model is the SNE597. This comes in at 41mm in diameter, 11.3mm in thickness, 48.8mm lug to lug. It has sapphire crystal glass. It's water resistant to 200 meters and has a solar movement. Now, this watch from the outside might seem that little bit more plain, especially when it comes to Seiko. I've literally got a Seiko on at the moment, but we'll go over that in a second. But I think that's partially what makes this watch more adaptable and more wearable. I've often said in videos that I think that boring is better because boring withstands the test of time. And I think this watch would withstand the test of time. It comes in at £470. Next on the list, we have a family-owned brand in Raymond Weil. Now, Raymond Weil actually produced some pretty cool watches, and they're kind of overlooked in the industry a lot of the time. I like the fact that they're family-owned. I think that a business being family-owned truly makes a difference to the service and the attention to detail that comes with it. This is the Raymond Weil Millesime, and you do have a ton of different variations to choose between. You have a silver, you have a black, you have a light blue, you have a green, etc., etc. The Raymond Weil Millesime comes in at 39.5mm in diameter, 10.25mm in thickness. It comes in full stainless steel, has a self-winding mechanical RW4251 movement with a small seconds at the 6 o'clock mark, and that has 41 hours of power. I feel like the Millesime for me just played wonderfully into the dress category, and it was a real statement from Raymond Weil. If I'm totally honest, I hadn't really looked in detail at Raymond Weil for a long time until they released the first iteration of the Millesime. This watch with the strap comes in at £1,775. Okay, taking another step up in price, we have possibly one of my favorite brands at the moment, and this watch is a definite endgame for a lot of people. This is the Longines Hydra Conquest GMT. They come in at 41mm or 43mm. Longines had an absolutely phenomenal year last year when it came to releases. The Longines Conquest Chrono, the Longines Conquest, the Longines Hydra Conquest GMT, just to name a couple of banging releases. But I think for me, the one that I can see living forever is the Longines Hydra Conquest GMT. It's functional, it's sexy, and it can pretty much be worn with everything. Talking about the 41mm GMT for a second, it comes in at 41mm in diameter, 49.4mm lug to lug, a thickness of 12.9mm, and it's of course water resistant to 300 meters. It has a fully automatic movement in the caliber L844, and this is a self-winding mechanical movement beating at 25,200 VPH, which has 72 hours of power. Now, there are a bunch of different variations that you can get of the Hydra Conquest GMT, but overall, I just think this is a watch that can truly live forever. I seriously do. It comes in with the bracelet at £2,750. The next watch on the list is partially to do with functionality, but a lot of it is to do with the history. So many watch enthusiasts just love the history when it comes to Tudor. This is the Tudor Blancpain 58, and it's packed full of that brilliant, juicy history that every watch collector loves. The Tudor Oyster Prince Submariner reference 7922 came out in 1958, which would make this the oldest relative in the Tudor watch family to the Blancpain 58. So there you do have a little snippet of the history. And it's funny, when you look at the Blancpain 58 and the Oyster Prince Submariner together, you can see a bunch of similarities between the two watches. A bunch of inspiration has been taken from that OG GOAT watch, if you want to call it that. The Tudor Blancpain 58 comes in at 39mm in diameter, 11.9mm in thickness. It has a COSC certified MT5402 movement, which is of course fully automatic and has 70 hours of power. It's also waterproof to 200 meters. And I think overall, the Tudor Blancpain 58 has a perfect amount of vintage and sports. I can honestly see this lasting through the generations, and for a lot of people, the Tudor Blancpain 58 will be the endgame watch. This model comes in at £3,550. And on the note of endgame watches, if you were looking for your next watch, make sure you head to chisholmhunter.co.uk. That's chisholmhunter.co.uk. You'd be supporting the channel, you'd be supporting a family-run business, and I'd really appreciate it. Next on the list, we have a fun one. We have a fun one. I feel like when people look at IWC, they instantly think of the IWC Engineer, but IWC's history goes way back beyond the Engineer, and actually it started with their Pilots models. Now, the big Pilot for a lot of people is a little bit boisterous, it's a little bit much. So, naturally, they gravitate to the safer option, shall we say, but it still has a lot of the functionality and a lot of the history. And that's where the IWC Mark 20 or XX comes in. This watch comes in at 40mm in diameter, 10.8mm in height. It's water resistant to 10 bar, and it has the IWC manufacturer 32111 caliber with 120 hours of power. This watch, in my opinion, is just the less abrasive model. I mean, the big Pilot is what it says. It is big, it is bold, it is in your face, whereas this is muted down. It's a little bit like the Shy Brother, but a lot of people prefer the Shy Brother. That sounded wrong. But at the same time, the Shy Brother seems to have the same functionality as the older one. For example, the glass on the front of it that's secured in a drop in cabin pressure. So essentially it won't pop out when you're in a plane. So it does still have a lot of that same functionality. It's just a slimmed down, more refined case. And I think it's a lot more palatable for a lot of people. This watch comes in at £4,800. Next up, we have the Breitling Navitimer, a watch with so much history, and the functionality of this watch is actually quite wild. The Navitimer was first introduced in 1952. It has a rotating bezel, holds the ability to compute distance traveled, flight time, airspeed, and remaining fuel consumption due to the integration of a slide rule. Breitling was actually the first company ever to place a slide rule on the dial of a chronograph already in 1940 with the Chronomat. Now, the first ever Navitimers were actually released in 1954, but this remains a key pillar to Breitling's range. It remains packed full of history, packed full of functionality, and it just looks so beautiful. Now, the model I've selected specifically is the Breitling Navitimer B01 chronograph 43mm with a beautiful blue dial that contrasts wonderfully with that red and black. This comes in at 43mm in diameter, 13.69mm in thickness, and the lug-to-lug comes in at 49.07mm. It has a fully automatic Breitling caliber 01 movement with approximately 70 hours of power. This watch with that black strap and that stainless steel head just plays wonderfully into the dress category. And I just love the fact that you know that this watch can do so much. It's literally like having a computer on your wrist. It's wild. It is a perfect Pilot's Watches endgame watch. And it comes in at £7,500. The next on the list is the OG diver of the industry. This is the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. Blancpain is the oldest watch brand in the world. It's not in continuous production, but the oldest watch brand literally in the world. The Blancpain 50 Fathoms is literally universally regarded as the first modern diver's watch. It established the template for all others, and today it's actually the foundation for a vast collection within the Blancpain portfolio. And it's quite interesting, this watch literally almost didn't make it out in the 1970s, even with that huge amount of history. If you're looking for an end game tool watch, then the Blancpain 50 Fathoms is literally the one that started it all. It is the tool watch of all tool watches. The next watch on the list is the Omega Speedmaster 321 edition. Yes, I had to include a Speedmaster somewhere in here because they're just so historically relevant and every collector wants them, and for a lot of people it will be their endgame watch. Let's cover the specs really quick before we get into why this movement in particular, the 321 movement, is so special. So the specs on this relatively new model come in at 39.7mm in diameter, 13.7mm in thickness, and 48mm lug to lug. And now we get to the fascinating bit, the history behind the 321 movement. The Omega Caliber 321 was the first chronograph movement using a column wheel designed and released by Omega in 1946. Now, over the years, the Caliber 321 has been found in a number of renowned timepieces, including the Omega Speedmaster, which NASA selected for use on space missions, and actually accompanied Mr. Ed White to space. His Speedmaster had the caliber 321 movement during the first US spacewalk in 1965. And of course, because of that slice of history, that iconic moment, that iconic piece of time that will never be lost, the 321 movement to a lot of watch collectors is the holy grail. It is the thing that they want most. Now, to top that off, the 321 movement actually has pretty limited production. It was actually only manufactured for a brief time despite its popularity. The caliber 861 by Omega was used in place after the movement was retired in 1969. So because of the rarity and because of the functionality and because of the history, this watch all of a sudden, or this movement all of a sudden became just humongous. And that's why this watch is, you guessed it, a true endgame watch for a lot of collectors. Now, the new version of this model comes in at £14,500, and there's tons of reasons why it's more expensive than normal Speedmasters, including the movement, but I'll get into them in another video, so make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to see that. The next watch on the list, and I know this is the holy grail for so many people, is the Vacheron Constantin Overseas Everest Edition. The Everest edition was done in collaboration with world-renowned photographer Corey Richards. And I actually had Corey Richards on the Into the Mind podcast a couple of weeks ago from when you're seeing this, and he's the most inspirational guy you'll ever talk to. If you want to check out that episode where we talk about this watch in particular, then I'll link it down below, or if you just look up the Into the Mind podcast, it will pop up. The Overseas Everest edition actually comprises of two different overseas. You have the Overseas Dual Time and the Overseas Chronograph. Both of these are limited to 150 pieces. They have this beautiful grey-blue, grainy looking dial, which is just unbelievable in the sunlight, and it also has orange accents, which just pop out beautifully. These watches are made in titanium, which gives it a beautiful dark hue. And if we were to look at the Overseas Chrono, it comes in at 42.5mm wide and 13.7mm thick. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are huge fans of photography, and they're also huge fans of Vacheron being in the Holy Grail. So I'm sure to a lot of people, this is the end. This is the watch that they strive for. Now, there's none of these watches left, and on the pre-owned market, you'd probably expect to see them selling at about £100,000 or just below. So they'll be expensive, but at the moment, you can't really find them. Next up, we have a watch brand that only people in the watch industry will understand, and that's partially what attracts a lot of collectors to these specific brands. This is Breguet. Specifically, we're going for the Breguet Marine, but let's just talk about the history for a second of Breguet. Breguet actually produced the first automatic watch in 1780. They also produced the first wristwatch with the Queen of Naples, the first travel clock sold to Napoleon in 1798, and much, much more. They're kind of known as the father figure to all watches in the industry because of their innovation way back then. This is the Breguet Marine Chronograph 5527. It comes in at 42.3mm in width, 13.9mm in thickness, of course has sapphire crystal glass, 18 karat rose gold, and a beautiful movement. The caliber 582 QA. It has 48 hours of power, it's fully automatic, and 346 individual components. I just think when you've hit the peak of your watch trajectory, you're looking for more than just the label. And I think Breguet is so much more than just the label. It is unreal amounts of history. It is one of the pinnacles in my eyes of the watch industry. This watch comes in at £37,200. Next up, we have a Patek Philippe, and most watch collectors watching this, I know a lot of you guys watching this will shudder, and you'll think he's clearly going to go for the Aquanaut or the Nautilus, but no, I'm not, because I think Patek Philippe is more than just Aquanaut or the Nautilus. I'm going for the Patek Philippe 5327R Perpetual Calendar, a watch that is just brilliantly Patek. You can imagine handing this watch down through the generations without fail. This watch comes in at 39mm in diameter, 9.71mm in height. It has a beautiful alligator strap, and it actually has the ultra-thin mechanical self-winding movement caliber 240Q. It has a day, date, month, leap year, and 24-hour indication by hands, which is watchmaking at its finest. This watch sells for around about £91,000. Next up, we have a brand new Royal Oak Perpetual Calendar from AP. Now, there were two of these new variants released, one in a sand gold and one with a beautiful blue dial. Let's just hone in on the blue dial for right now because it's stunning. It comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter, is water resistant to 50 meters, comes in full stainless steel, has that beautiful blue grand tapestry dial, and has the brand new caliber 7138. This is entirely self-winding, has 55 hours of power, 423 individual components, and 41 jewels. I just think that this represents a really key moment for AP, for their history. It's their 150th anniversary this year, and as a result, they've released a brand new movement. So I can see this movement gaining a lot of traction in the years to come because it represents such a significant point for them. Not to mention that the AP Royal Oak is the AP Royal Oak. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please hit that subscribe button or follow our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches, or my Instagram at HB Lifelines, or our podcast where we speak to Corey Richards, which is the Into the Mind podcast. And yeah, these were awesome watches. Thanks for joining.